to our Tuesday, July 11th City Commission work session. Thank you all for being here, and we'll call this meeting to order. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Commissioner Walker is participating by Zoom, so I'm assuming they're going to pull his lovely face up here any minute. And Commissioner Freeney is out on a family emergency. All is good, but she will not be with us this morning. So please join me as Jennifer Cowan leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is this a presentation that's showing on the screen? Okay, because we have to, there we go. That's what we need until the presentation comes on. So whoever's doing a presentation today will need to make sure they take it right down after they bring it up and not just leave it hanging, or we won't be able to see lovely Commissioner Walker. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
I can see you right now. Okay. So we'll go into presentations. The National Parks and Recreation Month proclamation, and I thought to myself, who was the perfect person for this, and that is Commissioner Gao, given that his dad was our first Parks and Rec director. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Well, Commissioner Gao.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. What a wonderful day. Vince, could you invite basically the entire room up, please? Look at this. This is fabulous. You know it's a good day when it starts with parks, right? National Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas we join the National Recreation and Park Association and the Florida Recreation and Park Association to recognize the month of July as Parks and Recreation Month. And whereas since 1985, people in the United States have celebrated Parks and Recreation Month in July to promote building strong, vibrant, and resilient communities through the power of parks and recreation, and to recognize the more than 160,000 full-time parks and recreation professionals, along with hundreds of thousands of part-time and seasonal workers and volunteers that maintain the country's local, state, and community parks. And whereas for the four pillars of the Florida Recreation and Parks Association are health, environment, community building, and economic impact, and whereas Parks and Recreation experiences building healthy, active communities, reduce stress, improve mental and emotional health, and aid in the prevention of chronic diseases, and whereas parks are fundamental to the environmental sustainability of our community by providing places to connect with nature, enhancing water quality, providing habitat for wildlife, and improving the air that we breathe. And whereas our Parks and Recreation system is vitally important to the quality of life in Dunedin, providing opportunities for people to come together as a community, transforming strangers into neighbors, attracting new residents and businesses, and reducing crime. And whereas our recreational programs have created countless stories in people's lives, whether it's providing a calm place of solitude for reflection or relaxation, a chance to take on a new challenge, or an opportunity to meet people and form lifelong bonds. And whereas we observe Parks and Recreation Month, let us not forget the vital contribution of employees, volunteers, and community partners who keep our parks clean, safe, and accessible for all to enjoy. And whereas this Parks and Recreation Month, we celebrate the powerful role parks and recreation professionals play in bringing people together by providing essential programs and services, as well as connections to nature in order to foster the growth and vitality of our community. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Gao, by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the Mayor of the City of Dunedin, and on behalf of the entire City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month in Dunedin, and encourage everyone to visit their favorite Parks and Recreation facility and to take a moment and thank the amazing staff and volunteers who are deeply committed to the growth of our community through services of equity, climate readiness, and overall health and well-being each and every day. It starts in parks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You got to turn it on.
Thank you, Commissioner Gao, for reading our proclamation.
It's on.
And thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Commissioners for allowing us to celebrate Parks and Recreation Month with you this morning. I'm Vince Gizzi, Parks and Recreation Director, the very proud Parks and Recreation Director. I would like to recognize some of our staff and department leaders with us this morning. Laney Sheets, Parks and Recreation Administration Superintendent, Jocelyn Broadhead, Recreation Superintendent, Pete Wells, Parks Supervisor, Jory Peterson, Special Event Coordinator, Nicole Allen, Marketing Coordinator, Danielle Edwards, Special Event Leader 3, Craig Wilson, City Arborist, and Lori Ferguson, Harbor Master. So thank you all for being here this morning. Did I say your name, Pete? Yeah. You did. Okay, just want to make sure I got Pete.
Did you get Nicole over there?
I did get Nicole as well. So, I would also like to recognize Jessica Rains, who's with us this morning,
Welcome.
who's representing our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Bunny Dutton, our chair, was unable to make it, so Jessica's filling in. This year's National Recreation and Park Association's theme is Where Community Grows, and acknowledges many ways that our staff, volunteers, and community partners faithfully serve our community all year long. Where Community Grows celebrates all the ways Parks and Recreation takes the lead in building strong, vibrant, and resilient communities in which no one is excluded and where everyone has an opportunity to participate and thrive. Where Community Grows also celebrates the vital role of Parks and Recreation professionals bringing people together, providing essential services, and fostering the growth of our communities, whether directly or indirectly, by supporting our local partners and volunteer organizations. As we say in Parks and Rec, we don't have to do it all, but make sure all gets done. Now we'd like to play a short video for you, and then I have a few thank yous, and then Jessica wants to say a couple of words. Where community grows, I think it's just perfect for what we do and what we see in our city. Just watching our staff grow, watching our community grow. We support as many organizations as we possibly can so that we all grow and we all grow together. So with that, I wanted to thank Sue Burness and Brooke Nolan and our communications team for helping putting together this video. Also, Nicole Allen, Laney Sheets, and Jocelyn Broadhead helped write the script, put it all together with communications. So thank you all for that. Now, Jessica just has a couple of words to say on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Welcome.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to recognize the value that Vince and his amazing team at Parks and Recreations bring to our wonderful Dunedin community. We have so many priceless options here in Dunedin, so I want to share with you a daily experience at Highlander Park. I think this experience speaks to all that Parks and Recreation adds to our daily lives. On any given morning at the park, I will be playing pickleball with a large crowd. There may be people also playing tennis, people walking by with dogs or just out for a stroll. Then the dozens of kids in the summer rec program go by the pickleball players and have taken to yelling good morning to the pickleball players who stop their games and yell good morning back. The summer rec groups are led by teenagers who most likely at one point participated in that program. Then the splash park opens and fills with dozens of toddlers and parents having fun and cooling off. There are most likely more toddlers on the playground, and by mid-morning, moms, dads, and kids on the baseball field working on hitting and catching. So many people in one corner of the wonderful park space that Dunedin offers. So many ages in this space, and so many who appreciate the fun of getting outside, enjoying themselves and others, improving their physical and mental health. I think this space speaks very well to this year's theme, Where Communities Grow. Our great group at Parks and Recreation under Vince's guidance make all this possible. They constantly improve the area through their dedication and commitment to everyone in Dunedin. And I thank you personally for the wonderful spaces we have here. Thank you.
Aw, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jessica, for those kind words about our staff. And thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for all your support in Parks and Recreation. Also, thank you, Jennifer, for all you do for us as well. Okay.
You guys are rock stars. Okay. All right, so we do have the dedication of the time capsule on our agenda, but we plan to do that around 10:30 or the closest time to take that break. So we'll push forward on the agenda until that time comes. We have citizen input. Anybody wishing to come forward and speak to any item that is not already on the agenda? Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Gary Coglin. I'm on the board of Dunedin Cares, and this is Christina Garcia. She is our executive director, and that video shows what a great city this is, and we're proud to be a part of the community. As you know, Dunedin Cares serves a large portion of our community. We are currently providing food to over 8,000 families, representing over 20,000 individuals, and the need is growing, especially due to inflation. We're here today to talk about expanding services. We've been expanding into areas like nutritional services with our healthy eating initiative, providing fresh food to our guests, and utilizing Bay Care nutritionists to educate our guests on healthy eating. We've been collaborating with Humana and Bay Care to provide insurance and medical resources on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we currently have a member from each of those organizations present during our shopping hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays to answer questions about Medicare, Medicaid, how to get signed up, and have a nurse taking blood pressure readings and educate the guests on pre-diabetic conditions, et cetera. But currently those services are offered outside the pantry, and as you've all probably seen, we have very limited space, so they're sitting out in the heat while we're providing these services to guests. We are expanding into support services for an aging population, providing shopping hours for seniors with our neighborly program, extended outreach at Good Shepherd Thrift Store with pop-up pantries, and we are going to be establishing pop-up pantries at the VFW and the American Legion to provide services to veterans who don't feel comfortable coming to the pantry. So we're here today to preview, I guess, our request of the city. We actually have two requests. One is to have the city work with us to find a new location. We're really bursting at the seams, and we're requesting the city help us find a place that would fit where we can provide additional services and accommodate our growth, and also a grant request of $100,000 this year to help us with expanding our services and relocating. So,
Okay.
anything you'd like to add? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming forward. I appreciate it, and thank you for all you do. I see our liaison, Commissioner Walker, is online. Commissioner Walker, did you have any final comments on that?
Yes, ma'am. Dunedin Cares is so integral to this provision of social services in Dunedin, and I just think that it epitomizes and really provides a focus of what Dunedin is all about, and I'm just so proud of that organization.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak to any item that is not already on the agenda? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes for the June 1st budget workshop, board and committee appointments, and the purchase for a secondary data backup recovery device in the amount of $59,000 and change. Are there any items to be pulled? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve these items? Okay.
If I may, that includes, I'm getting a bad reading from.
That was that's Commissioner Gao and Vice Mayor Torga. All right, sorry, what?
I'm getting a bad reading here. Is the board, is that the Marine Advisory Committee as well, correct? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's a local planning agency, Marina Advisory Committee, and Parks and Rec Advisory Committee.
Thank you. It just came out properly.
Yep. Okay, are there anybody here to speak to the consent agenda items? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, we will move on to action items. We have the resolution 2318, electronic filing of campaign filing reports. Jennifer, would you please read resolution 2318 by title only?
Resolution 23-18, a resolution requiring submission of campaign finance reports through an electronic filing system, establishing requirements for the system, establishing requirements for system access and usage, authorizing the city clerk to promulgate rules and other guidance related to the system, and providing an effective date.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor Twarnga and Commissioner Gao. Rebecca.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Before you, you have Resolution 2318. I actually brought this before you at the May 2nd, 2023 work session and got your consensus to move forward. This is basically an electronic filing of campaign finance reports, hopefully for this upcoming election. And I have worked with a couple other municipalities to see what others have been using and kind of tested and worked with one company. So I do plan to go forward with an easy vote, and I'll give more information once we get them up in line, and maybe some one-on-one training for people to stop in so that you can see what the new program will look like.
Okay, are there questions for Rebecca? I'll start with you, Rob, since you're the farthest away. Any questions for Rebecca?
No, ma'am, no questions.
Okay. Vice Mayor, any questions?
You just covered some of that because I was concerned that we hadn't had any hands-on experience with this, and I just want to make sure someone did. So there are different versions that we can use for this. Is that what you were saying?
Correct, but the Easy Vote is the one that I found that was closest to your campaign finance. It looks very similar to what you've been doing in the past in paper, in paper form, but now will be in electronic form. And so that's why I went with the,
And that's mandatory to use the electronic.
yes, sir.
Commissioner Gao, any questions? No, ma'am. Okay, anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak to this item? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final comments, Vice Mayor?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Gao?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Walker?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I think this is a good thing, Rebecca. Thanks for bringing it forward. It makes it so much more efficient, goes everywhere it needs to go.
Perfect.
So, and I'm sure it's not that difficult to do. State and county are already doing everything electronically, so it makes total sense for us to be doing that. All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
Commissioner Gao?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Torga? Mayor Bujalski?
Aye, and that motion passes 4-0. Okay, now we're coming to an item, select a member of the Dunedin Commission to serve as the 2023 voting delegate for the Florida League of City Annual Conference. What I want to know is who all is going. I believe that Mo is going.
Correct.
Are you going? Jeff?
4 of you, yes.
Rob? All four? Okay. I'm not attending because I have a family wedding. So 4 people are going. I took the liberty on both this item and the committee item that's coming up to get ask Jennifer to speak with Mo to find out what she's interested in as well, so that we're not leaving her out of the process because of a family emergency. So do you want to tell us that?
So during agenda briefing yesterday, in regards to this particular item, which is the voting delegate, she said that she would defer to the commission. Vice Mayor is the representative of Suncoast League, and she would defer to whomever you choose.
Okay. Would you like to be our voting delegate?
I can be, yes.
Yes? Everybody okay with that? Absolutely. Okay. Can I have a motion to appoint Vice Mayor to be our voting delegate at the Florida League of Cities Annual Conference?
So moved.
Okay. I'm going to take Commissioner Walker and then Commissioner Gao. All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing or hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for representing our city as our voting delegate.
Delighted to do so.
Okay, and then we have the Florida League of Cities Legislative Policy Committee sign-up. This is a start item, so I need a motion to add this to the agenda.
So moved.
Commissioner Torga, Vice Mayor Torga, Commissioner Gao. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. It is now on the agenda. Okay, so annually at the summer conference, the Florida League of Cities, well, you all are doing that already for the August thing. Now it's time for the policy committee sign-up sheets. There are municipal administration, utilities, national resources and public works, land use and economic development, transportation and intergovernmental relations, and finance, taxation, and personnel. Would you like to share with us, Commissioner Franey's preference?
Sure, Mayor. So Commissioner Franey traditionally attends the Land Use and Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
That said, again, she said that she would defer to the
Okay,
group.
but that's what she's been doing in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, Mayor, I'm going to be attending this conference, so there are 4 of you, there are 5 committees. Whichever one you don't choose, I will go to just to listen in.
Okay. Okay, is everyone okay with Commissioner Franey continuing on with her land use and economic development?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll put Mo there. Okay, Vice Mayor, what is your choice?
Admin, that's right.
Municipal administration? Everybody okay with that? Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Gao?
My preference? E-transportation and intergovernmental.
Okay. You okay with that, Rob?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that is Jeff. And your preference?
Utilities, Natural Resources, and Public Works Committee.
Okay. So Jennifer, you're stuck with finance, taxation, and personnel.
Exciting. So excited. Thank you.
Okay, so what I need, and I'm going to reread it, I'm going to need a motion and a second to approve this slate so that Rebecca can turn it in. Municipal Administration will be Vice Mayor Torunga. Utilities, National Resources, and Public Works will be Commissioner Walker. Land Use and Economic Development will be Commissioner Franny. Transportation and Intergovernmental Relations will be Commissioner Gao. And Finance, Taxation, and Personnel will be our City Manager, Jennifer Bramley. Can I have a motion to approve that slate?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Torunga, is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Commissioner Gao. Okay, anybody from the public wishing to speak to this? Seeing or hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, very good. All right, then we have the start item, which is a stormwater rate study. I need to get a motion and a second to add this to the agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Torunga? Is there a second? I'm just going to use Rob since he's so far away. There we go.
Giving him an opportunity.
Yeah. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. So now we move into the presentation. Sue?
Mayor, we have Sue Bartlett and Michelle Monteclaro doing the presentation.
Thank you.
Good morning. Oop,
Good morning.
it's green. There we go. Have to get real close. We thank you for considering this award, this item, for the stormwater rate study. I'm Sue Bartlett, Public Works Director, and I have Michelle Monteclaro, who is our stormwater coordinator, as Jennifer mentioned. We have attached to this item the memo from purchasing recommending award after soliciting an RFP and bid with an award to Raftalis in the amount of $62,635. We would like to have a motion to approve that and to begin the stormwater study. Michelle is going to cover a little bit of the background for you. What you also have attached is the previous stormwater, well, the actual current stormwater master plan, and the template, which is regulatory, statutory, that requires us to do an assessment of our stormwater needs and report them for the next 20 years. And we need to reevaluate our rates due to the escalating construction costs for our capital projects, as well as looking at the requirements in our permit for maintenance items as well. So Michelle can cover a little more detail for you.
Good morning, Michelle Monteclaro, Stormwater Program Coordinator. The purpose of this rate study is to ensure that current stormwater revenues from the stormwater rates are adequate to satisfy the financial requirements for this utility for a 10-year period. Prior studies were completed in 2010 and 2014, and this rate study will take into account stormwater services and projects within the City of Dunedin to address flooding, water quality, and the operation and maintenance of the city-owned stormwater system. Our goal is to provide fair and equitable and an effective level of service for our residents, be in compliance with state requirements, and verify that the stormwater rate is self-supporting.
We can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so just to be clear, we've already been through the stormwater master plan. So this, and I'm doing this for the benefit of everybody, this particular study includes all of those new projects, as well as the stormwater project for Sterling Park. Right.
That is correct, as well as unanticipated needs. When we did the stormwater study, we will be providing that to the consultant so that they can include that in their analysis.
Okay, great. All right, so Vice Mayor, questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for the presentation. So I have read through the master plan again, and just out of curiosity and just get a plus from you, I think, is that they will not only come in and just look at the rates and see what it might cost to complete anything else that's remaining on as a requirement from the previous consultant and the list that they had, and based on where we are today. But they may also look at other things or determine things, other things as well, correct? They're not just doing the rate?
They are doing the rate. We will be providing them additional information beyond the stormwater study, the master plan of items that have come up since that plan was done, as well as current requirements to improve our stormwater rating, I don't want to go too detailed into anything else, but our floodplain ratings, so that we're current and staying current with regulations, as well as the best plan for the city of Dunedin.
And they will be doing that as well, correct? Because that's their they have an expertise in this area.
They do have expertise in this area. They are doing the rate study part of it.
Only the rate study part.
Yes, they're doing the cost portion of
Cost
the
portion.
analysis.
So they will go out and anything that's still left open, they will then go out and ascertain whether our estimates that were made in the past are correct or whether they need to be changed.
They will verify if they're sound. They will let us know that if there's any, anomalies or anything that we should consider in our, and when we do our planning.
So
Yes.
it's really not a second look at the plan. It's just for the rate study side of it.
Correct. It's not a second look at the stormwater plan, master plan. It is a look at the stormwater master plan and other needs that may not be listed in that capital part of the stormwater plan.
And that you may be giving them.
Correct. We will be giving them, yes.
Okay, and they don't have that yet.
No.
Okay, thank you.
They'd have to be awarded first, and then we can provide them the information.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gao.
Thank you, Mayor. Those other things that may not be currently in the master plan, are there any lessons learned we learn more about climate change and sea level rise, the impact of Ian in Fort Myers? Are we also looking at things that might maybe included in the rate study, that it's not in the master plan, but we need to be concerned with A, B, or C? So let's start thinking in that direction.
So we are looking at updating our vulnerability assessment, which looks specifically at flooding, sea level rise, and storm surge, and it models it for us. And then as well as part of our CRS program, there is a stormwater component to that, where we will also be looking at sea level rise as well.
Thank you.
And one additional thing that we are looking at, and we have included in this, is Michelle has been analyzing our sampling points and the amount of sampling points and the information we get from that. So she's actually, lessons learned, condensing those points so we can be more efficient at our sampling and have a reduced cost, but still get good information. So there are other components that we're also including in this, and that hopefully will be a savings, but they'll also take that into consideration when they analyze a rate.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Walker, do you have any questions on this?
Yes, ma'am. So I know the date, I see the date on the master plan as being September 2020. And I also see some cost estimates. And I just want to confirm one thing I believe I heard is that the rate assessment will be conducted to ensure that we are keeping up with those cost estimates, because I'm going to assume that the cost estimates are possibly as old as 2020. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, that is a correct assumption, and the rates might be even a little bit older because that was completed in 2020, so we would have had to submit our estimates. So we are finding that the current construction costs are exceeding our estimates, so that is absolutely correct.
Anything
So-
else, Rob?
So then in addition to that, I mean, this plan will be updated to reflect today's construction cost environment, correct?
Yes, we will need to update our stormwater master plan. It's a living document, and it will be updated as a result.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, how long will it take?
6 months. We're thinking 6 months.
That long?
We're hoping that we can always hope they'll be done sooner, but they have a 6-month period.
Yes.
Because I thought it was going to be in this budget.
No.
Do we have an increase planned in this budget? I don't remember.
There's a 1% increase.
I mean, I
think.
know we've been doing it sort of like, CPI kind of a thing, but I couldn't remember what it was.
There was just a 1% increase in the fund proposed budget from the previous proposed budget. So it is not included in this budget. It'll take
So
that
I'm-
long and be included in the next budgeting, because we will be back to give you the results, and then, if there's an increase in the rate, obviously we'll be,
Well,
following the
there's
processes.
going to be an increase in the rate. I mean, we
Yeah.
already know that.
So-
We can't do all those projects and not.
So we'll need time.
I'm concerned because really all we've been doing is these very small CPI increases, and knowing how many projects are in the master plan and the future of other things, right, that we know are coming that we may not even know by the time this is done, I'm concerned that there's going to have a need for a big jump, which, we experience in many of our utilities depending on what's going on. So I guess it's a little off topic, but I'm just a little concerned that we're only doing the 1% in this budget.
We have to maintain a balanced fund, so we can only propose so many, projects based on the funding that we anticipate receiving. And so that's how the budget has been proposed.
No,
Has
I
been.
understand. What I'm saying is I'm still concerned that we're only proposing a 1% for this budget, knowing that there's going to probably be a big jump. So it just feels like we should maybe be preparing, and look, nobody ever wants to raise rates, but we're talking about pennies here, so we're not talking about a lot of money to begin with. But I'm just a little concerned about that, so there's no answer.
No.
I'm just expressing that because knowing what we're facing, and then knowing what we're going to be facing after, I feel like
Yeah,
it's an opportunity there to maybe do some smoothing before we have to do the smoothing.
let me, Mayor, if I may.
So I'll leave that in your hands.
Yeah, let me chat with staff, and maybe we can just report out quickly on July 18th when we do our budget meeting.
Yeah, and again, I'm not asking, nobody wants to raise rates, but we know what's coming. It's pretty obvious. Okay, so where do we leave this at? Okay, so we now have the presentation. Anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak to this? Seeing or hearing none, can I have a motion to approve and award the stormwater rate study to Raftellus Financial Consultants?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Torga and Commissioner Gao. Any final comments, Vice Mayor Torga?
Yes, I would like to make some comments about this. I really appreciate what we do with stormwater, and I'm very respective of the condition that we find ourselves in. We're a wonderful coastal city, which puts us obviously on the coast, and so we have some issues. I appreciate the sampling that you're doing to see where we stand, and I realize that's probably very complex. After reading through the stormwater master plan. And so I just want to make sure that we do those kinds of things and that we do get that feedback up here, because it is a big concern. And there were some assumptions made, of course, and I appreciate that you're watching those, and I heard you say that. So I think that's really, really important to us. We have residents that that I know have spoken to me, and I'm sure to the other folks that are on the commission, that are relatively concerned about what occurs when we get the big blows, et cetera, but also when we just get the normal hard rains, et cetera, and we still continue to have that flooding. I'd actually almost like to ask another question, and that is, in the sampling that you've done, does it look like we've been effective? But I'll let you report back to us at some time. But I'd like to see us get a report, as city manager, if we could, a little bit more frequently than what we are, as to are we winning, are we staying even, or I don't want to say the last part. But thank you for allowing me to make that comment, and
Sure.
and I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Gao?
Thank you, Mayor. Utilities, right? We do talk about it often up here, that it's one of those things that the community doesn't even know or recognize while things are well, but the moment they're not well, right? We don't even think about our garbage until it's not picked up, right? Or wastewater, and stormwater is certainly a part of that as well. So thank you for doing what you're doing to keep it out of the minds of our community. And so that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Walker.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I will echo what the mayor was saying with regards to I don't know that 1% is adequate, and especially in light of the fact that the plan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it looks like, is this the first time we're revisiting this since 2020?
Say it again.
That's correct, yeah.
First time that we're revisiting the plan since 2020. So yes, I would also share Vice Mayor Tornga's perspective in terms of, I think we need more frequent updates on this. So those are my comments, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm just happy to get this, because it has been a while. I think we're all saying the same thing. It's been a while, so very happy that this is moving forward, because we can't work on the projects unless we have the funding to do it. So, there's been a gap. But there have been a lot of reasons for that gap. COVID was a big one. Staffing and any number of things. So, you're right. Did I already ask for citizen input? I think I did. Yes. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
And what's really, I forgot to say this, what's really interesting about this stormwater rate study is it's the same, it's not the Burton group that we used to have, it's the same group that did our marina study. So,
That's correct.
very cool. Which you guys were very happy with.
Yes.
Okay, we have the proposed agenda for July 25th. We're going to have our Purple Heart Recognition Day proclamation, minutes, board and committees, something of cartridge filters, I don't know, a bunch of, what do we call those? Consent agenda stuff, including our strategic planning award. And then we have Florida Housing Finance item on affordable housing. We have our business survey results, and we have our legislative action and 2024 priorities.
Yes.
Is the legislative action, is the review by you, Jennifer? That's
Staff, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Nicole.
I'm sorry, what?
By Nicole Delfino.
Oh, gotcha. But are you part of that?
She and I were talking about splitting it up.
Okay, just making sure you're, and you've been continuing on to advise our staff on anything that needs to change even if we haven't discussed it here?
Yes.
Yes.
There's also a full memo, because there were about 93, I think, laws that we're summarizing for the changes that happened this last legislative session.
Lovely. Okay. All right, so everybody okay with that agenda? And if so, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor Twarnga and Commissioner Gao. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, and we told the public 10:30?
We did.
Okay, so we can't go do it now.
No, and that was on social media as well.
Yeah,
so.
okay.
It's not raining, though.
I know. I know, that's kind of, all right. We'll move on to our workshop items, which is the Marina Master Plan Consulting Services Request for Qualifications and Scope of Services. Laney, come on down. Any opening, Jennifer?
Nope, no way.
Okay.
Chairs are very slippery.
Yeah, they are.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Lainey Sheets, Administration Superintendent with the Parks and Recreation Department. And we're coming before you this morning to discuss the Marina Master Plan. This is an item that is budgeted in the current fiscal year. And this is the request to solicit consulting services that would assist us through that process. We've been discussing this item with the Marine Advisory Committee for over a year now and have had regular discussions with them. Okay, now it's on. I couldn't tell.
No.
We've had regular discussions with the Marina Advisory Committee on the various scope items that they wanted included in the master plan. And then we've also taken notes from the various commission discussions that have taken place over the last year as well. So what we have before you is this document. Mainly wanted to discuss with the commission the items that are in the section that is for the scope of services. What we have included in here is that the project would look at all of the slips within the Marina Basin and looking at making sure that they are of the right type and size and configuration. We are looking at parking around the marina for both the slip users and the general public. We're looking at our boat ramp facilities and the associated parking along with that. Our staffing offices, as you know, are, as well as the concessionaire operation that is in the existing Harbor Master building, and for them to look at that facility as it will need to be replaced in the near future, and we need to make sure that we have a good plan going forward to how to replace that facility. And then also our maintenance facilities. So right now, our maintenance operations, there's a small storage area within the Harbor Master building, but that's on the second floor. So it's difficult to do a lot from that facility. And then there's some shared space within the pram shed that is being replaced as we speak. We have the municipal pier and the day docks. So that particular component is not funded by the Marina Enterprise Fund. That is, improvements have been done through other sources, generally the general fund. But we want to make sure that that is included as well for people who are coming to visit Dunedin on a temporary, afternoon type visitation. That pier also holds our sheriff and fireboat operations as well. And then our restroom facilities and our pump out facilities, support services for the marina. In addition to that, we're looking at environmental factors such as resiliency and sea level rise, and looking at the possibility of floating docks. As we've discussed before, if we convert to floating docks, there are some impacts to that with both cost and the access points that come with that, and the potential loss of number of slips that we would be able to have. So they would look at that possibility and configuring and what the impacts of that would be. We're looking at asking them to look at if there's areas where we need wave attenuation, especially with the pier and the day docks. We're asking them to look at sedimentation prevention so that hopefully those dredges can occur on a less frequent basis. Again, that the slips are appropriately sized. Any additional facilities that they think that the community might express interest in, as far as, the Marine Advisory Committee does not recommend fuel, but we will, put that open to the public to put their opinions on as well. But what the slip users would like as far as their amenities, restrooms, laundry, et cetera. Also, we have the other facilities around the marina with especially the boat club. And again, looking at the long-range plan for that facility. And then we have also, as when we had our last meeting, it was requested that we add an analysis of the utility usage of the different slips, and to factor that in possibly with the marina rates. So that is a component of this study as well. And then lastly, the Marine Advisory Committee asked that we look into making sure that their boats are secure. So, having controlled access. Right now, that is possible through A, B, and C docks. But if you're on the other walls, it is open to the general public, and that is a concern for the people that are on those docks. And we've also been working with Marine Advisory Committee over the last year on some pedestrian safety issues. The sidewalk that goes along the east wall, so along the A, B, and C docks, that sidewalk ends when you get to the restaurant facility. And so the only way, if you're walking around the marina, is then you have to walk out into traffic and to walk down to the main pier. So we would like for this consultant as well to look at those different, and that's just one aspect of the pedestrian issues around that area that we want them to look at. So with that, I will turn this over to the commission and look for your feedback and hopefully consensus direction to move forward with putting this out for people to solicit bids on.
Okay, thank you, Lainey. I will go to the commission for questions. Commissioner Twarnga, questions? Or Vice Mayor? I'm so sorry why I keep doing that. I don't know.
Questions, and I have comments.
Okay, yeah, let's try to stick to questions. And then I'm just going to run and get a cup of coffee. I'm listening, but you go.
You don't want to miss what I say.
I can hear you right there. I promise.
So a couple of questions that I have. As we look through this, just out of curiosity, we've taken input from a group, some of whom perhaps we're not very familiar with, that are on the MAC, Marine Advisory Committee. We've had a couple major studies done, or we spent money on a couple major issues of attempting to get not only input from residents as to what they would like to see with the marina, but there's also been references by staff that we have several marina plans currently for what's occurring. I'm not going to ask if we have that or if you're working from that, but I will ask if those others have taken a look at some of those plans that came about. Now, some of them were not necessarily the plans, but things that led to planning, and that includes the Dunedin Waterfront Task Force, where they had 4 major sections that they delved with, and one of them included the marina. And then, of course, we had the main one, which was the illustrative corridor plan, which was for the CRA, and they signaled out a particular area for the marina. That happened back in probably 2010, if my memory serves me correct. And just for your reference, and then I'll ask the question. We spent a lot of time, a lot of weekends, a number of people giving input to that. That included everything from traffic flow to wave attenuation to sediment control, to walkability around the marina, to parking, to many of the things that you mentioned. Were they given that opportunity? Did they review those, some of those things that we've done in the past?
So the committees are aware of them, but the consultant will be given those past studies for them to digest as well. So once we select the consultant, we'll be providing them all those previous studies, so they will be able to include any of that information and that feedback in their reporting.
So I would have to say that from an input standpoint, that input is rather old at this point in time. Some of it that leads to a plan may or may not be probably only good for educational side, but thank you for that answer. The second thing I wanted to ask you is there's a request, I think, for 3 different proposals. Is that correct?
We're looking for them to provide their experience in doing similar type studies. We recognize that this probably will be a challenge to find the right consultant. I don't know, for example, when we selected Raftellus to do the marina rate study, they looked high and low to find other specifically marina rate studies that were done. We may or may not be able to find a consultant that has specifically done like a marina master plan, as it maybe specifically to like the configuration of the marina, but they may not have experience with dealing with the surrounding communities, because normally a marina is just concerned about, you know, how do I configure my docks, not how do I deal with the pedestrian areas around it. So what we are asking for the consultants in their proposals are to provide their experience in similar type projects. And then we'll have an evaluation team that ranks each of the consultants based on their experience.
I asked that question because I have a concern about bureaucracy as it relates to this. And I wanted to bring out the illustrative test that we had done, or the example that we had used, because we had real action, real people that were giving input to what we used. It's not to say this company wouldn't do the same. But I would want to make sure that they did, so there's no blue sky going on. Much of this has been presented and has been discussed. In my opinion, a lot of this doesn't require this kind of an expense. So you somehow feel that we don't have this information and that there's no way to get this, and there's no way for us to have staff that should have a handle on some of this. Is that your opinion at this point?
Yeah, so there are components that we are looking for experts in. You will see in this document that we are looking for them to do a complete structural analysis to tell us how much life do we have left on these facilities? When do they need to be replaced? What is the best way to replace them? What's the best way to configure the replacement docks? And that is not an expertise that we have on staff and we are looking for. But in addition to, as you mentioned, their recommendations are not going to be based solely on their opinions. There is a community input component to this as well, so that the users of these facilities will have the opportunity to say what their priorities are as well.
So as you understand where I'm going with the next question. So in over a period of time, we had a little bit of a different financial structure, but we would collect monies for Part B and for Part A, and they were sort of guided into those 2 buckets. Now there's, I think, 1 bucket. That was a change that was made several years ago. And then now I want to make sure that somebody is really looking, and I trust that the Board of Finance does that, because we don't get into the weeds on operational expenses, but somebody should be, and somebody really has to do that. So that is a concern that I have, and as some of the folks that have talked with me from the marina, their concern, and I use the word bureaucracy, let me just stay with that word for a minute. They're much more familiar with taking a look at the marina and saying, well, what would we want to do there? And getting somebody to come in and just give us a proposal. If we wanted to do, what is it that we want in the marina? So somebody has to kind of tell them that. Do we want a lot of small spaces, or do we want a lot of small or large or medium size, or what? And then they would probably give us a couple different options on the construction side of it, to include, well, here's what it would look like, and they can do that really quick. I mean, I'm very familiar with this, not only with the marina side of it, but how to do this using the computers that we have today. They would do that really quick and be able to give us an idea of what it is that we could have in that marina, both from a floating dock or from the setting that we currently have. And we started in 2015.
Commissioner Torga, is there, I'm just asking, is there a question? Okay.
I'm giving her.
Okay.
So in 2015, we actually spent some number, about $35,000, on a dock. And then somehow we kind of lost our way until we got into 2020, or 2019, when somebody then decided suddenly we needed to do a dredge. And so then things sort of a plan kind of fell apart. So are we staying, those numbers are in our budget today. Those numbers, as far as the study goes, then really aren't good numbers. I'm just asking you, we need to really look and see what comes out of this whole study first before we look at that.
Yeah, so the numbers that you're referring to for the replacement of the docks, we had an analysis done about 3 years ago that said you have about 3 to 5 years left on a dock. And so we know that we're going to, through this process, we're going to get this consultant out to tell us again how much life do we have left on this dock. And when we do go to replace it, how should it be replaced, and what will the cost of that be? And that is the expertise that we need to move forward with any future planning and budgeting for the marina.
So I wanted to ask that question because we have determined this 3 times now, that a dock needs replacement. That's been determined at least 3 times. So I would trust that we would really be looking at what is it that we can really do in the marina from a layout standpoint. Is that not correct? It would seem like that would be more correct than us spending time on determining whether a dock is the condition of a dock. We pretty much know what the condition of a dock is, and also of B and C.
Yeah, so all 3 of them probably need to be replaced in the very near future. But this consultant will give us what that timeline is. So we need to get that established. And I don't know what the study will say. I don't know if the study will say that A dock is in the worst condition, or if C is in the worst condition. That's what we're looking for this consultant to give us.
Do you think you're going to find a consultant that's going to do everything you're saying and is going to be able to give you a rough idea of what the layout would be without us giving some input as to what we really want it to have? So, for example, when I'm talking about slips, let's just say what we have today. Today we have 4 60-foot slips, and then we go into other kinds of slips. Without us giving some designation, I guess we're going to let them kind of tell us. Is that where
I think, Laney, if I may, Vice Mayor, if I may, I think, and especially during the course of agenda briefings, I had to discuss with all 5 of you exactly what we're doing here today, which is really reviewing the scope we're doing an RFQ, we're doing a request for qualifications. Once we receive that request for qualifications, ultimately it's going to be the City Commission's decision whether or not, we hire this particular person. And I think at that point we can really dig down into the scope and what it is they're able to do. And a lot of times, as was the case for example, the class and comp study. The original respondent, who was the most qualified, actually brought on a sub-consultant to help us with that aspect that they didn't have. And we thoroughly vetted both the consultant and the sub-consultant and then hired that particular person. So at this point, we're really looking at the scope, whether or not the City Commission views the scope as adequate, and then we will bring that consultant back to you. And we'll address that question directly, Vice Mayor, as to whether or not this particular consultant uniquely can answer the questions, or we'll need a sub-consultant.
I understand, and I'm actually bringing out the fact that we know that, for example, we know that ADOC needs to be replaced.
Correct.
Okay? And I just want to make that point. That's a challenge as to whether we really need, how much time we need to really spend on that. What we really need, I would think then, is to spend our time on.
Given,
is what
yes.
does that layout look like?
Right.
And so we need somebody to, either we have to figure out what we want it to look like based on what we think our needs are.
Right.
Or somebody else has to tell us what our needs are. And we've been standing up and jumping up and down for a long time about this. And it seems like we're going back to zero and going to go and let them come back and tell us.
Well, I
So I
think-
just wanted to ask the question.
Right, Vice Mayor, I think as part of that discussion, though, what we provide to the consultant or as a result of the RFQ is how many times we've looked at it. And also the comments from the public during the course of the review, the rate study, and the dredge, and so on and so forth, and provide all of that information to this consultant. You know, I agree with you. We need to look, ADOC, we don't need to spend that much time on ADOC, but we do need to know, what the condition is of the B and C dock in particular, because we really don't know exactly how long the life is on those particular docks. So that's an exercise that we'll run at this point as part of the master plan. And the other part of this too is many of you were at all of those meetings when we were looking at the rate study. We continually said, we'll address that when we look at the master plan. We'll address that when we look, and here we are with the scope, and I think we folded everything in that we heard during the course of those rate study meetings into this particular scope of services. Thank you, sir.
So I think my challenge is a little bit on the cost of some of this. I realize this cost is not in the marina budget. I realize that. I know where the cost comes from. It's just simply how much do we have to spend to know what it is that we want to do within the marina.
Got it.
So,
And we'll be vigilant, right? Yes.
thank you. I think I'll just pass on any other things that I was going to talk about. I think I made a point.
Okay, Commissioner Walker, questions?
Yes, ma'am. So I went through the RFQ, and specifically, have you considered, because if you look at the scope of activities that are going to need to occur, and my understanding looks like there would be an infrastructure survey, there would be a survey of the public residences to terms of the needs, and there would be the data analysis, and that's a pretty wide scope. And if I think I heard the city manager correctly, I think the first question would be is if you've taken into consideration of the fact that probably no single company will be able to accomplish this scope. It'll probably be a team of, maybe 2, possibly 3. Have you taken that into account?
Yes, that's exactly what both the city manager and I were trying to relate to. This is a very broad scope, and it requires some very, very narrow expertise, but then some also very broad expertise on general public planning. So I fully expect that there will need to be more than one company that we deal with.
Okay. Second question is, you referred to the respondent providing a schedule that's essentially milestone-driven. I think the milestones are loosely defined in the RFQ. Is there going to be something a little bit more detailed in terms of what you want the offerer to basically respond to in their proposal?
Yeah, so when they put together their proposal, we're asking them for what those milestones are, and then as we go through that selection process and we work with the consultant that is selected, we'll be able to nail that down and expand upon it and solidify some of those schedules.
Okay. And then in terms of, to reference what the Vice Mayor had mentioned with regards to some other studies that have been done in the past. I'm assuming that you have access to all of that data as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, and also to confirm from the RFQ, the intent of this is for the consultant to basically provide the draft report within 90 days. That 90 days is what we're shooting for, right?
Yes, but again, they will, in their proposals, be able to give us what they think their timeline is, and we'll work with them to set reasonable deadlines.
Okay. Yeah, I would, and I see your point system, you know, and I think that's a good way to manage this. However, what I am not seeing in there is the schedule part of it. You know, my feeling is that, you know, the milestones should be defined and the schedule should be based on those milestones. So anyway, that's just I guess that's a comment.
So, if I may, Mayor?
Hang on, Rob.
Commissioner Walker, that will be provided to us when we award this proposal. So we'll ask for the milestones and the schedule. At this point, we're just in the request for qualifications period. So your comment is noted. We'll ensure that happens.
Okay, greatly appreciate that. I have no further questions, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Gao.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, all the questions at this point have been valid, so I really like the conversation. So mine's going to be really simple. When it looks to the recommendation for designs and locations for the replacement facilities, is there any way that we can incorporate some sort of science center meeting room to allow maybe summer programs? We're a coastal community, so I think there should be a lot more educational attention being given to the sound and what can be studied from the sound, especially from our youth and summer camps, and maybe partnering with the high school and other localization organizations so that we can put some focus and just study the sound more. Seagrass, oyster beds, nitrogen levels, and whatever else might be found there. So if any type of space could be identified for that would be wonderful. I like the attention you're giving to the sustainability and resiliency for sea level rise and climate change. And so other than that, you know, that we've got some,
Any questions?
other than that, if that could be
Okay.
incorporated, that was it.
Okay. I don't think I really have any questions, to be honest with you. Yeah, no. Okay, I'm going to open this up to the public. Anybody wish to come forward and speak to the request for proposal and scope of services for a marina master plan? Okay, seeing or hearing none, I need a, well, we don't take a vote here.
Nope. Consensus direction to move forward with the scope, please, Mayor.
Okay, so I need consensus direction, and then we'll then do final comments, just so that everybody has that opportunity. So can everybody just raise their hand and show me consensus direction to move forward? Okay, we have complete, thank you, Rob. We have complete consensus. And I'll start backwards then for final comments. Commissioner Gao.
Well done. That's it. Good.
Commissioner Walker.
Yes, ma'am. I think the objectives are pretty well laid out in this RFQ. And I think it's important to understand the fact that there are complexities that are going to arise with multiple companies in a teaming type arrangement. But it sounds like you've got a handle on that. And the other part is that my experience with proposals and such is that you know, the best ones are milestone driven for a number of different reasons. One, it helps define the progress of the of the work that's to be done. And second of all, in the proposal, as the milestones are laid out, it does provide a demonstration of experiences that obviously are ranked the highest in your evaluation criteria. So anyway, I think this is on the right track, and but I would provide those comments just to make sure that you've provided a measure of consideration for these potential things that lie ahead, if you will. So that's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. Final comments, Vice Mayor?
Yes. I remain always hopeful that staff or organizations that we have helping us, such as committees and boards, that we can get through a lot of the basic stuff ourselves and get down to the part that we really need help with, and then pay for that help, so that we don't have to have some organization come in and have some meetings and come back and tell us, here's what these guys wanted, and there were 13 of them in the room, and half of them were there because they were looking for air conditioning. I'm kidding. But I've been through a lot of this stuff. Whereas we've got a lot of residents that might like to be in that marina. There's a lot of residents that don't know about the marina, don't care about the marina, and never will be in that marina. And so I would like to make sure that we have a focus on what it is that we really think we want out of this marina. First from our residents and or from the representatives of these residents, and that we start from a better starting point, rather than leaving it wide open. Look for the expertise that we need to have, and then do that. So I raised my hand for this RFQ. It's for qualifications, but I was really hopeful that we would have had some ideas about this. And I'll make a comment, because we talked about wave attenuation, and we got into that very heavy at one point in time, back about almost 10 years now, and talked to a number of people about that. And as far as us going out further out into the Dunedin Sound, I might want to point out my new name, old name. It was highly advised not to attempt to do that, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the wind coming from all different directions and the water movement coming from different directions. So whether we want to leave that in the equation or not, it's an expensive piece of looking at something. So that's a challenge that I would like to make, not only specifically to this group, but to everything that we do. So it's not a new challenge, but so I want to make that comment, and I'll leave that with you. I've often said, if you want 100% sampling from a group that's utilizing the marina, we can probably give you a 50% group, an answer from 50% of the people as to a specific question, rather than a wide open, what would you like to see here, or in other words, would you rather have this or would you rather have that? And then listen to see perhaps what they say. So that's a comment that I have. I just want to make sure we really get good information, we get it fast, and that it's actionable. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I was very pleased with your summary, Lainey, on all the different things we're going to look at. I really tried looking hard at your list to see what we were missing, based on everything we went through with the dredging, everything we went through with the discussions about the rates, all the things over the years of the water, the water committee, and even what is the 1980 or 90 study. I mean, all the different things that we've talked about, right? I looked hard to see if there was anything missing, and I really didn't see it. I mean, I think you've got it in generalities covered. So I was pretty impressed, because I can usually find one thing missing. Ask Jennifer.
Yeah.
I'm pretty astute with that. I really couldn't.
I went
I
through a lot of
really,
minutes.
really couldn't find one thing missing. So I'm impressed by that altogether. I'm happy to hear that you're going to include all those past plans. I think it's so critical that we're looking at the various facilities that we have out there, buildings specifically. I'm assuming you not only are you looking at location, but you're looking at their structural soundness. You'll be doing the same thing for the club, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I know there's been concerns. I'm looking at Rob. So all of this is really good. And how maybe some of those facilities can be combined. The expansion, can we get more slips? I don't know whether, I understand that there's been multiple opinions about wave attenuation out there on both sides of the aisle, But is there a place to expand more slips? I don't know. It was built a certain way at one point. Maybe it needs to be built another way to accommodate that. That's what I don't know. I think structural engineers and that kind of thing are the kinds of people that can tell us, A, yes, you can do it, B, it's not a good return on your investment for the money you'd spend, right? Or A, you can do it, and yeah, over time it would be a return on investment, or no, you can't do it, it's just impossible, you'll never get the permitting. There's all different pieces of it, but that's what these kinds of engineers will be able to tell us. I would also assume that they'll be looking at what's available to the north and the south of us. When they're looking at, it's very easy to look at our list of waiting at how much potential more slips we should have and in what size range. That's a very easy thing to look at. I would also assume that we would look at to the north and the south of us as far as, marinas, that, hey, Margaret One and Clearwater, they're also selling out of these size slips, so there's a demand. Or, hey, you need more commercial because it's selling out this way and that way. Or you don't need as much because you're not keeping the slips full. I know that's not true, but I'm just saying that's what these folks are going to be able to tell us. Because, yeah, I can easily say that I want 30 more slips. But I can't tell you whether that's even possible. So I think I do understand why the vice mayor is saying, well, what do we want out of it? I do get that. But I also think is we need to be told, we need to hear what they're saying to determine that. I think we are being open here. We're being open to adding more slips. Doesn't mean we are. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. We're being open to all of it. And when you're open to all of it, then you're open to receiving the information you're going to get in order to determine, make logical decisions, both financially, what's good for the community, what gives us a good return on our investment, all of those things. I think when you start picking away things, and I also think having the consultant, which is something, this thing has been pushed out and pushed out and pushed out for many reasons. Having the consultant is an outside, objective point of view. Now, that also doesn't mean that they're absolutely right. They've got to know our community. We already know our community. But we can be the people to mesh that. We don't need the consultant to do that. We just need the facts. And I think this provides for that. So thank you very much. Did I already ask for public input? Anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Okay. It is 3 minutes before 10:30, so we'll go ahead and take our break for the time capsule. Hopefully it'll be no raining, so let's hurry up. And I'm assuming we'll be back at 11:45 or 11, whatever. We have time, so we will take a pause and adjourn for a few minutes. Thank you. Rob, just hang out.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I'm not there.
That's all right. For those of you who couldn't see, we just installed our time capsule, which will be opened on Robbie Burns Day in 2072. So pretty interesting. Welcome back, Rob. For those who haven't joined us earlier, Commissioner Walker is joining us via Zoom, and Commissioner Franny could not be with us today due to a family emergency. All is good, but she had some things she had to take care of. And so the next item under our workshop items is a letter we received from CEQ regarding some recommendations they had. Natalie, I know that you and a member of the CEQ are going to come forward, and go ahead. I'm just going to tell the commission the way we're going to do this is the CEQ representative is going to go through point by point and talk about what they want to do or what they want us to do. And then Natalie, on behalf of the city, is going to respond with what we are doing and what's coming. And then at the end of each little section, I'll give a chance for questions or whatever, and then we'll move on to the next section. So if you want to get your letter with the responses out, that's probably the best way, and we'll just go through it section by section. Okay? Any opening, Jennifer?
No, thank you.
Okay. Natalie?
Yeah, good
Welcome.
morning. Is this on? Okay, great. Natalie Gass, Sustainability Program Coordinator for the city, and with me I have Debbie Sheldon,
Hi, Debbie.
our current member of the Committee on Environmental Quality and Sustainability, or CEQS, as we may refer to it during this discussion. As you mentioned, Mayor, we can go recommendation by recommendation. I want to welcome Debbie, if you want to maybe read each, in the black text, each bullet point. You're welcome to provide any background if you want to. And we can then I can go over staff comments and then discussion for each one, if that works.
Yep. So you want to give her the microphone. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you very much. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing, again, what's appropriate. You want me to go down each one of these bullets, obviously, like what we talked about. Is there going to be a point for me to provide any additional context or anything like that?
Under each point, under each point, say what you need to say.
As long as I need to say that, okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. I just want to make sure I stay on task here. All right.
Sure.
Just to the point, we do have the date on top of this is February 28th. And obviously we know today's date in July. The first bullet, though, that we do have here is that we want to appoint an energy manager or a consultant who has an engineering background with strong technical credentials to analyze facilities and energy demand to develop the best practices for transitioning to 100% clean renewable energy and preparing for future fleet transitions. I also want to add to a little bit of background
Sure.
on this particular point. Even though we talk about transitioning to renewable energy and preparing for fleet transitions, it has everything to do about business and making a good business decision. And that's kind of where, when we talk about the first word here says appoint, and that was because we on the committee tried to achieve consensus, right? 100%, unanimous, and that's what this letter was about. It was 100%, but that word there, appoint, actually was negotiated because many people on the committee strongly felt that it should be more aggressively worded. Instead of appoint, it is assign, a resource, a dedicated resource, right? And the importance of that being a dedicated resource is we know time kills deals, time kills ROI, and if you have to reach out to somebody each time that you need to have a question that's not immediately there, I can ask a quick question from somebody, you lose that opportunity to actually get a higher return on your investment or spend less time on what maybe we shouldn't be spending time on, right? You may have waited, 6 weeks to get an answer from a consultant, whether pick up the phone, 5 minutes, you've got your answer, we move on, that's not going to work, that kind of a thing. So the bulk of this really concerns that first bullet there. Any
Okay.
other points?
Natalie?
Yeah, then I can go on to staff comments. We'll go back and forth. Okay, perfect. Staff comments in green. The City of Dunedin is currently developing the scope to conduct an energy audit and solar feasibility study for municipal facilities. The purpose of this study is to more clearly understand energy demands and next steps in the continued journey of transitioning to clean, renewable energy. Once the consultant completes the analysis, the study will provide a priority list of action items and next steps. Staff will also review its list of continuous service contracts to verify that a firm is on the list who has the technical and engineering skills needed for solar power projects. If a firm cannot be found, staff will explore firms that can be added. Staff is also working to complete an analysis of its fleet and prioritize best practices for transition. To provide a little bit more background, as Debbie said, the committee was recommending that the city look into, and kind of that term appoint is flexible, and I was in that discussion, so I kind of heard the background of it, whether that's appointing a current staff member, hiring someone new, or looking at a consultant, and it is open to interpretation and can change over time. To clarify, I am not an energy manager. I don't have a 4-year engineering background, and most sustainability staff are not energy managers. I am seeing a shift in the state of Florida where cities are beginning to explore adding an energy manager to their staff in addition to sustainability. And this is something that we might want to consider in the future and just see what those options are. But I think our first step is really conducting that analysis for our energy audit and solar feasibility to then see where we need to go, what our needs are. And that's kind of, I don't have any updates on that study yet. It is in progress, and I'm welcoming any questions or comments.
Okay. Vice Mayor, any questions on this particular item?
So, thank you for that input from the committee. You guys have always been really great and diligent in making sure that we are moving forward with the things that you suggest. And I know I've gone to a number of meetings. I know other people up here have as well. In your opinion, then, you're stating that you believe that we, under the guidance of policy that we've decided on already, 2035 and 2050, that I'm almost getting the impression you're saying we need to move faster and we need to move more effectively to achieving those goals. Am I reading too much into that, or?
No, you're absolutely right, because we're losing the opportunity right now. We're theoretically, right? I don't have the numbers to like spout them off, but we're losing money right now as we wait. I know that we're talking about sustainability and environment and from a somewhat moral perspective, right? But if you just look at it from a business perspective, we are losing that opportunity. That window's getting very small.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gow?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. When we are developing the scope, and we're in the process, not to pin you down, but do you have an idea of what that timeline is before we might see something back?
I'm waiting on the consultant to provide that timeline, and I don't want to say too long, too short without really knowing before they come back to us.
Will it be in time for this coming budget cycle, or?
Hopefully, but I don't want to promise anything.
That's it.
Commissioner Walker, any questions on this item?
No, ma'am. The two questions with Commissioner Gow and Vice Mayor Torga covered. Thanks.
Okay. Natalie, what do you know about energy engineers on staff versus retainer? Debbie mentioned a concern about how long it might take, and I know you've been talking to other cities and what they're doing and how they're handling it. So.
Yeah, so I think there's two different needs that we're talking about kind of all in one. There's a need for one-time individual analysis of solar projects when they're being designed and when they're going for construction. And, that's in the letter where we talk about when needed, we can look at a third party to do that one-time analysis per project. And then the other thing, which I think is more clearly being stated in the recommendation, is more of an ongoing position that would be managing energy, looking at holistically facilities, energy efficiency, energy conservation, transition, all of those things. So you kind of have two different needs, if that makes sense. In terms of, I mean, it's just beginning now that I'm seeing different cities, the county hiring energy staff. And I don't have a huge background on the history of what's better, what's not. I mean, there's pros and cons to both.
They are available, though, to be on like retainer
Right.
initially.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, we have to think about the big picture and all the other positions we need as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mayor, if I may? Just
Sure.
to clarify to Debbie's comment regarding taking 6 weeks and time is of the essence, when they're on retainer, we can simply pick up the phone and call
Yeah.
and get the answer relatively quickly, or send the plans to them and get the answer relatively quickly. We wouldn't have to go through a procurement process, is what I'm saying. It's already been done.
Okay. And you, Natalie, you feel that when the energy audit is completed, that's going to indicate how much work is really there for permanent employee versus consultant as well,
Correct.
and that sort of that time frame,
Yes.
depending on what it shows.
Yeah, so it will provide a much bigger picture and more clear understanding.
Okay.
So once we have that, then we can move forward in the direction that we want to go.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you. Debbie, you want to move on to the next item?
Find a solar power company who can utilize the majority of the on-site solar power system that the city will install. This uniformity can benefit the city to minimize the software systems that have been needed to analyze data tracking and issue work tickets when necessary. Again, this is an efficiency perspective, and it's a sustainable approach to this.
Mm-hmm. Natalie?
So staff comments in green. Once the city's energy audit and solar feasibility study have been completed, staff will explore more options for this. I will say that if we're not able to utilize a single solar power company for all future projects, we can and should explore options for uniform software to monitor and manage across the board. For example, if we keep adding solar to all our buildings and we all have different systems, different software, that would be time-consuming and inefficient to manage, so completely correct there. I do agree that where feasible, we can try to use the same solar equipment and just have more uniform in terms of maintenance, and I appreciate that recommendation from the committee.
Okay. Commissioner Gao, I'll start with you.
I don't know that I really have any questions on this point.
That's fine.
No.
And we'll give you plenty of time to do comments. Commissioner Walker, any questions on this?
No, ma'am, not on this particular one.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I would assume that if we wanted to utilize solar, for example, just use that as an example, on all of the buildings to facilitate this energy crisis or issue that we're talking about, that we could relatively quickly determine whether it makes sense to have any mixture of systems or not. And I would assume that then the consultant or the advisor to us would help select based on the entire usage that we have and the number of facilities that we have, which is known to everyone in a relatively really short time period. I'm talking hours probably or something like that, could then facilitate how we would do that. Not necessarily when we would do each one of them, but how we would do that so we would have that consistency. Wouldn't we do that? I mean, that would seem like an answer to that. I don't think we'd, unless they would say to us, and here's another question then, you want to mix some of these systems. You want to use this one you want to use this company's solar panels over here and this one over here, and we can tie it all in and that's normal. I don't know that, but.
Just to clarify, the 3 solar projects that we have, one, we have solar installed on this building. We have solar installed on our Emergency Operations Center, EOC, and the water treatment plant. All of those projects were more in the realm of that project. So they weren't necessarily done together. And I think the recommendation of the committee, and something that I agree with the staff, is that we, as we continue our solar journey, continue to look at it more holistically. And I agree that once we have our solar feasibility study, we'll have that holistic approach and be able to better make decisions for equipment and software and all of those things. So, thank you.
When we're completed with the energy audit, we would then likely look at all the other places it's recommending that they go and probably try to bid them all together or see how they would be linked together.
Yeah, we'd see what options that we have
Gotcha.
to do that work.
Yep, makes total sense.
May I add to Vice Mayor Torga? The reason why it's helpful to have the same technologies is because the industry itself, even though it's been around for a while, is still not mature in that we've gone past, okay, beta VHS, right? We are all going to be running on VHS. So they're not completely getting together with the software that actually supports that monitoring. And so I'm sure eventually that will happen, but current state, even though we know solar's been around a while, as far as a mature IT, interconnected, integrated kind of thing, there's still plenty of opportunity to be had.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
This is exciting. Develop and or require an internal education and training so that city staff leaders are aware of the city's clean solar energy goals and stay up to date on understanding solar technology best practices. This bullet point here leads actually kind of into that first bullet point where we talked about that energy manager. If you had that would be able to do knowledge transfer among all the different departments, right? So you would start to internally build in, it's not going to be new, it's going to be inherent to all departments, just like you've got to balance the budget, where are we at from our energy consumption perspective? So.
Staff comments in green. Sustainability staff will provide sustainability updates, share goals, and conduct internal training to management teams on an annual basis or more frequently as needed. With this, as more education and trainings come available, I will share them with commission and staff for the benefit of everyone. Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council is going to be conducting a Solar 101 training for city government staff that I'll share. It's coming up end of July, early August. So just as more resources come available, I think just creating more communication around that is good. So thank you.
Okay, and you're doing a whole ton of education anyway. I see it coming out all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Commissioner Walker, any questions on this?
No, I think there is a question, but I'm just going to lead in with a comment. The training and the public awareness part is particularly important to this, and one of the things I see as an underlying theme to the comments or to the issues and then the comments is that we really do need somebody in the city with solar experience. And this is the question part. So with what future projects are we currently looking at? Because I get a little concerned with regards to the feasibility and audit, and you guys are doing some great work. The dream plan, I think, is an awesome start. But what projects do we have coming up? Because I asked that question because we obviously need that expertise to work within the confines and the scope of those projects. And in the meantime, we're going to be doing a feasibility and an audit. And I just want to make sure that there aren't any future missteps with regards to future installations.
I think what you're kind of referring to is while we're doing this study, are there any projects that have solar in the meantime happening beforehand or during? The Aquatic Complex Center, and that is something that we have been in discussion. I've been in discussion with Vince and his team. So that's all being incorporated. We're kind of making sure that we're not leaving anyone behind within this discussion. So I appreciate the question.
So if I can add onto that, Mayor, any new project, any new capital project that we're looking at with a vertical structure, we are adding solar as an add alternate. To Commissioner Walker's question about, because that would essentially be the successful bidder is adding solar onto their bid. Is that efficient? Is it, to be installed in an efficient manner and that type of thing? We could certainly have somebody on our continuing services contract have a look at that. But every single capital project that's coming up, we are adding solar onto the bid.
And if I can just jump on your question, Rob. So, and I don't know if this might be a Jorge thing, but I'm not looking for Jorge to come up. You can sit right there. So Jennifer, it's kind of the complexity of our situation as being a municipal government or an organization that has multiple buildings. Let's put it that way. We have multiple buildings. So when you're building a new building, right, your bid is based on everything all in. And our goal when we build a new building, obviously, is to have, don't take this wrong when I say this, but the bells and whistles, and that's part of it, the solar, the energy efficiency, while we're also looking at, I'll say, backtracking. I guess I think what we all need to know, and you may not be able to answer this, but the complexity is it smarter to not have that as part of the bid contract, when you're doing a new building, and have that be a part of a larger system added on together some other way. And I don't know the answer to that because, if you're building a roof and that's where the solar is going to be, I would only assume it would cost more to add it on after the fact.
Yes.
Than to plan a roof, I don't know, but I think those are some of the questions that we would have, and that's part of the complexity. If you're building a brand new building like we just did here with solar, you're getting the best price on a contract, which we did. I don't know, we had 7 or 8, Jorge, I'm just looking for a nod, vendors that came forward with the bid, and we took the lowest bid. And so, we're in a situation that 5 years from now, it might be less because the cost of goods sold and might be different, inflation might be different, who knows? Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I think Ready for 100 is 2035 for all governmental buildings, and it's, 2023. And so I think it's more cost-effective and more efficient to incorporate solar in a new construction, because we're a medium-sized city. We don't do that many brand-new buildings. The other part of that is, as part of the energy audit too, as our consultant goes through the city structures, when are they going to be re-roofed? And then that's when you incorporate the solar. You don't put solar on a roof that's about to be re-roofed. So that's really what that energy audit is going to tell us as far as the order of magnitude for when we need to replace those items. And then the add alternate really tells us, for example, the pool. We're adding solar onto that.
Or the parking garage.
And the garage, right. And so what exactly that looks like as far as incorporating solar within the project. So, and I think solar on this building was an add alternate as well.
Yeah.
So we need to know what that is, how much it costs, and the city commission can make that discussion, can have that discussion. For some buildings, we've absolutely got to replace the building. And the question is, what bells and whistles are we going to put on that in order to realize, what we need as far as the building itself goes. So
So there's some of your complexity right there, because if you know a roof's going to be replaced in 5 years, you wouldn't add solar. But if you know if a roof's going to be replaced in a year or two, then you're going to replace the roof and add the solar. And so
Correct.
it's more difficult then to get one big contract to do it.
Oh, I think you can actually, it depends on the way that we
That you
bid that
structure it.
contract. Yeah, you could do it over a period of time, and you are our contractor for the next 5-6 year period, and this is what we need to do. It depends on how we configure that contract.
And an energy manager that is on, what do you call it, on retainer can help facilitate that.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Rob, I jumped on your thing, so go ahead.
No, that's fine,
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question. It just dawned on me while the city manager was talking. So this facility here is not fully solar yet, is it? So it's like some number.
It's about 56%.
I'm sorry?
It's 56% once we get everything hooked up and connected.
How about the other buildings that we mentioned? Are they fully solar?
No, they're not fully solar. With a lot of buildings, you're not going to be achieving 100% net zero with the solar on the roof based on operations. Sometimes you're usually having less, so it's very rare that you're meeting or exceeding that. It just depends on use, and it's very different for commercial, very different for government than what you would see in a residential circumstance.
So when we're saying solar, they are not fully solar.
Right, so when you...
Just for us common
Yeah,
folks.
no, that's a good question. And when you're looking at clean energy transition, it's a mix of solutions with on-site solar, and then you can look at off-site solar, different subscriptions, renewable energy credits, things of that nature, which we also are, we have subscribed to the Duke Energy Clean Energy Connection Program, which is going to get us to 40% of our energy needs are going to be considered clean energy under the renewable energy credits. That will be by end of 2024.
Okay, so let's leave some of that for the end conversation. We're talking about the education piece now, I think, right? Okay.
Well, can I finish up with
Sure.
with this subject matter? Because we talked about the audit, and am I misunderstanding what an audit is? An audit, I know when they audited my energy use, they audited it in a really quick time period. I'm talking about not days, not hours, as to what I was using. Then they wanted to know what I might use and define that for them. And then they gave me the energy audit, so I knew what it was that I would need to replace. Is that correct? Is that what we're talking about when we talk about an audit here? And then I have one more quick question. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm suddenly, based on a question that Commissioner Robb just mentioned, are we going to get too close to this 2035 if we're trying to achieve this at 2035? Do we have a plan, a financial plan based on some kind of a guesstimation of what it's going to cost us to get to
the energy audit.
100% in 2035?
No. That's why we need the energy audit to establish the plan moving forward.
So I can get an energy audit. I got an energy audit very, very quickly.
So this would be for every facility. We're looking at lighting, HVAC, windows, insulation, all the structure of the facility. And it's really going to give us a much better baseline data on understanding of what our facility is at now, how it can become more energy efficient, and then that way we can understand how we can conserve energy and right-size our solar, but then also taking into consideration future EV charging stations. So it's a little bit more complex. We're looking at many different facilities, and then with that we'll have a better understanding moving forward to create a financial plan to scope out solar for different facilities and where we need them. I will say...
And building improvements.
And building improvements. So there's multiple parts to this study, and you know, by 2024, we'll already be at 40% of our goal through the Clean Energy Connection Program with Duke. And that's not in addition to the solar that's on this building, EOC.
Would you
Yes.
say that again? Would you just go back 10 words and say it again?
So we have a 100% clean energy goal. We'll be reaching 40% of that goal by 2024, end of 2024. So that is through all off-site solar.
Okay.
And so the energy efficiency study and solar audit will help us with the on-site solar piece of that equation.
So that is another alternative for us, is most certainly for someone that's listening, that obviously off-site is
It
common.
has to be both. We don't have enough space or land to create solar fields on our own. We will have to rely on a third party or outside source to reach that goal. But as much as we can do it in-house on our own buildings would be preferred. So this study will help us move forward more in that direction.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gao, anything on the education component?
Just real quick, I know we're talking about it, but I didn't realize the pool or the garage had been approved yet, so we might get.
They have
the
not.
cart before the horse.
They have not. It's just a matter of,
Okay.
the
Just
plan
Just
is,
making that point. Thank you. And as far as because it seemed to me we got off track with the one point we were discussing, and we got into solar systems and plans. And so just back to the educational part, it just says sustainability staff will provide. And just want to make sure that we're growing as we need to grow, and the importance of this. And because I think at some point, we need to get the buy-in of the entire staff, that everybody gets it, everybody understands where we're going. And I just want to make sure that this isn't Natalie's project, that this is the city's project, this is the community's project to move in that direction. And all education, all training should be thought of in that holistic global effect, that if Natalie leaves the city, that all of a sudden this can go away. That is not true.
Right, so with, it's not necessarily saying that sustainability staff is going to generate that education, simply that I will be sharing that education that I receive or inviting other staff members or commission to attend those trainings so that we're all learning and growing together and it isn't just on one position, if that makes sense. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
want to talk about it?
Sure, go ahead. So I was actually going to discuss this a little bit more at our next budget meeting. And I have discussed it with Natalie and with Nicole as well. We're going to create a division of strategy and sustainability out of the city manager's office, and it will be populated by Nicole and by Natalie. And that division will be responsible for not only deployment of our strategy moving forward and strategic planning moving forward, but also sustainability and the deployment of our sustainability programs throughout the city. So I want to emphasize that deployment moving forward and support Natalie in what she's doing as far as her sustainability efforts. I think she needs help, and I think actually these are really good points. And an energy manager on contract would only serve to help Natalie in what it is that she's trying to do here moving forward. So I'm actually really excited about what we're going to do moving forward, but I do think that we need to expand that education component of our program. I've always wanted to be at the forefront of sustainability, and I know
we have an EPIC goal that says that.
We do. We have an EPIC goal supporting that, and I think Natalie is becoming really well known in her circles as well. I'm proud of the work that she's been doing in the county and the wider area. So it's a point very well taken, and I do think we need to expand that effort as well.
Wonderful.
Okay, that was on the education piece. I got you on that one, right, Rob?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, next.
It's kind of like the sustainability department needs to be sustainable, right? This will help too. To create a system of checks and balances so energy efficiency and solar installation and future battery backups are not overlooked or underdeveloped during the design or the construction. The first part of this sentence, though, is the most important, and that is that system of checks and balances, right? And so it talks again about that whole sustainability, making sure that, you know, you're able to identify from a technical perspective your, you know, the power consumption, and from a technical perspective, making sure that everything is running as efficiently and effectively as it should be.
Staff comments in green. As appropriate, the city will review plans for solar by utilizing a third-party entity to review the plans to ensure the system has been optimized. And all this information was written before the announcement of this new office coming to the city. And, you know, I think this just falls into the previous point about creating more education across the board. And so this is another great point of creating those checks and balances.
Okay, Vice Mayor, any questions on this item?
I have none.
Commissioner Gale? Commissioner Walker?
No comments on this.
Yeah, it all fits in, and again, I think even if we do have an energy manager on retainer, every time something new comes into play, there will be those checks and balances. I will ask this question, though. I know that you have your construction committee. I know I'm probably not calling it the right thing. Am I calling it the right thing?
Yeah, it's close.
Close enough?
Yeah.
Where when a project's coming, you all review it, you do new pricing, you know, and you have everybody. Are you, during that time, looking at those things for the checks and balances?
Yeah, the construction committee hasn't met recently, but for every new project, we're looking at the sustainability aspects and certainly checks and balances, especially when it goes through DRC as well, Development Review Committee. They all go through Development Review Committee, so, and that's a number of different disciplines having a look at them. But we are looking at them through every avenue that we have, really.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next.
I think we've seen an example of this already occurring. Have staff continue to watch for clean energy implementation information and tools for municipalities.
And you've got a long list there, and then essentially you reply with all the things that you're already involved in.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I do look at these different things, and will continue to look at them and apply myself where time permits to additional organizations.
Okay, I assume we don't have any questions on that. No, okay. And then there's just other communities that you've referenced. You don't have to read them all. Okay, so we're kind of at the close of this. Did you, Debbie, did you have any final comments that you wanted to make?
I just wanted to make sure, the other point that I wanted to make, and actually this was something that was brought up in the earlier presentation, and that has to do with making sure that whatever you all decide in the direction that you all give, that it is time-boxed, that we have a better idea instead of it being somewhat ambiguous, right? When is this going to happen? And that would provide that visibility so that if we are falling behind or maybe encountering some roadblocks, there's time to actually sense and respond to that. Whereas if it is the longer, again, I get back to the time kills all deals and ROI, we have a tendency, the longer that we spread this thing out, things get missed, things have to get revisited. I thought we talked about this before, you know, those kinds of things. So that is, I think, the biggest takeaway that I got, even just in sitting and listening to this, but making sure that I wanted to make sure on behalf of the committee and share that information back to you, and that is, again, time boxing. I know we're talking about, 2035 and so forth, but sooner than that, right?
I just want to say a thank you to the committee and everyone who put this letter together and past committee members. They do an excellent job at continuing to push us in the direction we need to be headed, and I appreciate their support. One thing I did want to add as well for the education piece, more in an outward facing, is that our communications department has been working on creating a new website as well as creating a citizen engagement platform. And so we're really excited to get the Ready for 100 project on that platform where residents can really see where we are, where we're headed, different steps that we're taking, and it can be a lot more transparent. So I'm excited for that to come out as well.
Okay, let's go to final comments. Vice Mayor, any final comments on this?
Yes, I do. Thank you. But do you mind if I just ask a question about one thing, and perhaps the city manager? Does the design and review committee, do they have anything to do with our buildings?
They do. It's any multifamily, I think it's over 5 units, and a commercial over, I believe it's 6,000 square feet. We will, for our own buildings, though, we'll send it through the DRC.
Thank you. So we ought to really make sure they know what's going on with this, correct? Yeah.
Yes, and I
Yeah,
attended
absolutely.
the DRC meetings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, thank you. No,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
So I wanted everybody to know that, because I didn't know that was occurring until about a half a year ago when the city manager told me, no, we run everything, anything over 5 goes through them, and
Right.
we're over 5, so,
Yeah.
right?
Right?
I'd like to make a comment about the communication that you have brought up here again one more time. I get asked the question frequently about where are we with this project? Where are we with solar? Are we going to continue with solar if it becomes too expensive? Do we when we're doing an ROI on these things, is there at some point in time we might be substituting something else? And of course, I always respond that I would assume we would, because we're looking at the cost of this, even though we have a commitment. And maybe we'll have a fulfillment through another source of energy. There's other kinds, but obviously may not be applicable to us. But I would assume it could be. So as we look at this, if we don't get more done, it would seem to me that we may have a struggle trying to get to the end. And so I just want to make a comment that I'd appreciate if we're just really kept up to date with that, so that we have one story for 5 of us, that we understand where we are with this and where are we on this goal, because I really couldn't tell anybody, although the city managers kept me up to date on this. When I asked the question about the 40%, I understood sort of where we were, but that we just make sure that we're kept up to speed with that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Debbie has a hard stop with a work meeting. No, you're all set? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Appreciate her for being here. And with that citizens engagement tool, that will be outward dashboard framing the project and showing the timeline and where we are currently and what we've done so far. That's going to put everyone on the same picture. So for our residents, we'll be able to understand, our commissioners, our own staff, and it's something that you'll be able to reference back to when you're communicating on the project.
And I appreciate the CEQ coming in here and talking with us.
Yes, I do too.
Again, and their input. Thank you.
Commissioner Gao?
Thank you, Mayor. We've actually, in one way, shape, or form, been talking about resiliency and sustainability the entire morning on just about every item that came into play, and is just so wonderful, given the the heat waves that we're having, and the fact that we signed on to the Ready for 100. That's a wonderful plan, but I don't know that we need to wait until 2035 to get there, right? If we have a plan in place, we can get there by 2030, why not institute that? I'm so appreciative of CEQ for what they do, not just coming forward today, but just in general. It's a wonderful committee that really makes this focus on where we think we should be focusing as a community. It's great to see us moving forward the way we're moving forward. I'd like to see us address solar in more of a, this is what we need to do type of thing, and have it take precedence over roof design. Maybe have it take precedence over whether it's an ad alternate or something, to really, this is the way we need to go, so this is part of the project. Now, whether that ends up being right after this energy audit, maybe it's not part of an ad alternate, maybe it's not part of the project, because we have somebody that's going to come in afterwards that will do all the groundwork, but it's at least thought of in that manner. If there is some way to measure the market price of any project for the solar that we're getting, and are we getting the most we can out of the money that's budgeted? And if not, why not? Does that impact the design of any structure? Does it impact the roof design? And which should take precedent? Things of that nature. I'm very happy to see things. I've always struggled with, we started with Ready for 100, now we've got this dream plan, which is huge. And I sit and I look at Natalie going, oh my God, this is anywhere from solar to single-use plastics to living shorelines to, it encompasses so much. And so I'm happy to hear that we're talking about divisions and trying to incorporate all that, because it can't just be Natalie, and it can't just be, well, we've got Michelle in another department, maybe she can, you really need to have people in the room that can talk about these things in that nature. But I've just been extremely pleased with the entire conversation this morning, let alone this. And so, thank you. It's been very educational.
Thank you, Commissioner Gao. Commissioner Walker, final comments?
Yes, ma'am. So first and foremost, we have to make sure that we maintain the credibility in the plan, and that we're following the plan and we're doing what we say we will do. I think a big part of that is making sure that in terms of future projects, the key element to that is to make sure that we're doing this smartly. And I say that because, you know, and I also absolutely agree, you know, using the City Hall as an example, that the best possible deal was negotiated. But that doesn't mean necessarily that the contractor has the expertise for sustainable energy type things. And so new builds worry me a little bit. I think the re-roofing is most certainly a viable option for addressing this in the future. We most certainly can't afford to take a step backward on this, both in terms of resources and, again, credibility to the plan. I full-heartedly applaud the establishment of the division of sustainability. Natalie, dream plan in your efforts, I have tremendous amount of admiration for what you have done. And you are the leader of but a few. You need more resources. And with that, the one thing, going back to another concern though, is the audit, the analysis. What I don't want to see happen is that we become the victim of paralysis through analysis. We need to keep marching down the road that we said that we're going to do. And to echo what Commissioner Gao said, you know, I love this discussion. And, you know, I think Dunedin is most certainly poised to be the shining model of how to best do this. So I think, well, those are my thoughts on this. And anyway, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Walker. I agree with all the different things that were said. I would just add that, you know, once the energy audit is completed, I think it'll be really important to have a financial action plan. You know, putting a number to it, even if it's an estimated number, and then looking at our budget, which, as we already know, is strained. but understanding, we have to have a goal, even if it's not funded. But when we want to accomplish it, and when we need to accomplish it by, in order to meet our overall energy usage goal, we have to have that financial action plan. But as Commissioner Gao said, that action plan isn't just for solar or building improvements to improve energy usage. It is for all those other things that we've been talking about, living shorelines. Do we need seawalls in certain places? It includes all of those things, but I understand that it's much more complicated. I mean, if we can just get the energy use piece, that is a result I would like to see from the energy audit, is to best guess how much that's going to be. And I would also want to see included in there, because our energy usage goals also include what we're trying to get our residents and businesses to do as well. So obviously, we're not doing an audit on all that, but I'm saying, in there should be some, maybe not in this particular study, I don't mean it that way, but at some point we needed to, I guess, develop a plan of how we can encourage others to be doing all of this. I know we have our solar plan. I know we raised the funding. I'm assuming we're going through that just as fast as we went through the lower amount. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that'll have to be analyzed, and how we can, even it's getting our businesses, and I mean, a lot of our businesses are leasing space in owners' buildings, so it's working with the owners, right? Where they might have a larger building and they're leasing to 3 or 4 businesses. It's getting them on board to do energy audits, and how we can, obviously, we can't pay for their improvements, but we can encourage and incentivize some way or another. So, again, we are doing some of that. It's not that we're not, but that might need to be looked at and expanded. Okay, so final thing is public input. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to this item? Alan?
Alan Brand, 1731 Hickory Gate Drive North. I'm the primary author of the letter that you're discussing this morning. I'm no longer on the CEQ, but I'm here because I still have specialized knowledge and experience on the subject and interest in it. Last week, I sent a long email to all the commissioners about the procurement of the process of the solar power at the EOC and the City Hall. I know that at least some of you have read it because I've received comments about it, so thank you very much for that. So the city now has 3 solar power systems. The County Road 1 water treatment plant procured at $1.81 a watt. The EOC procured at $7.12 a watt, and the City Hall procured at $5.15 a watt. And for good reason to adopt a cohesive policy and somehow retain help regarding the city and clean energy, you can look at the procurement of these 3 systems individually. And I've spoken to many people on many occasions about the price of solar power and how to decipher it. Today I'm going to use my ground beef analogy. Solar power, like ground beef, is not sold in a set quantity. Dollars per watt of solar power is analogous to dollars per pound of beef of a hamburger. And all 3 of the city's solar power projects are ground chuck sort of applications. They're just run-of-the-mill, flat roof installations. So one was obtained at $1.81 a watt, the other at $7.12 a watt, and the other at $5.15 a watt. So the city paid sirloin prices for ground chuck applications on the EOC and City Hall. And I don't have enough time here in 3 minutes to go into some of the reasons for that, but between the EOC and the City Hall, over $3 million, over $750,000 was budgeted for solar power, and the city got about $300,000 worth of the product for their money. So there's two themes that come out of this. One is that the city's lack of experience on these matters, which is understandable. The other thing is the city's lack of power of discernment on whether or not to seek counsel on these matters and who to seek them from. The city had a free resource on the CEQ that they did not take advantage of, but there were many others that the city could have contacted, which have warned the city off about spending so much on these solar power systems. About 2,000 years ago, there was a man who eventually became quite well known, and he gave a warning about putting new wine in old wineskins. And the procurement process of these solar power systems is a 21st century example of what happens when you ignore this wisdom. In the past, I've received comments about my passion about these things, and I thank you for them, but passion only gets you so far. Passion is what helped make the city a ready for 100 city, but now the city needs knowledge, experience, analysis, and competence to implement their green plan goals. And in the wine example, your solar power is your new wine, and it's up to the city to find new wineskins and get the old wineskins out of the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak to this item? Okay. Jennifer, any follow-up?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. And first of all, thank you, Alan, and thank you to the CEQ. We call them CEQS for their comments today. I think it was a really good discussion. I would like to comment, though, on Mr. Brand's discussion regarding other factors involved in the construction of City Hall. And first of all, I have a great deal of respect for Alan and his wife, Diane, who was the chair of our LPA for many, many years. Cannot counter him item by item, most certainly. He is the subject matter expert on solar, probably in the state of Florida. And so I would never endeavor to do that. But what I do want to talk a little bit about is the solar for new City Hall here. First of all, those three, the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the EOC and City Hall, were all designed by different engineers. So they weren't designed by the same person. And reviewed, dare I say, and bid in different ways. That said, what drove the cost for the solar for City Hall, and we are at 56% at this point, and the rest comes from the solar farm, Duke Solar Farm. So I'm really proud of that fact that we're 56%. You might recall during the ribbon cutting, the folks there were very pleased with that as well. When we were under design, first of all, the way that system came into being on our roof, we did a design bid build, designed by Harvard Jolly. The project was bid by Manhattan, our contractor, and then built. And so as part of that process, it's a different procurement process than anything residential or that type of application of solar. So the system was designed by Harvard Jolly and by their subject matter experts within that company. The issue in particular, the extra cost that Mr. Brand is talking about, was a racking system for our solar panels on the roof. A lot of people don't know, when they look at this building, that there is a flat roof behind the waves. And that was not built to accommodate solar. That wasn't built, for any other reason than because it was cheaper to do that than a standing seam metal roof throughout. It just so happens that the solar fits very well in that area. And so then we designed a racking system so that we could affix the solar panels to the roof through the racking system and not directly to the roof. And the reason for that was because, really three reasons. First of all, the perforations in the roof. There would be literally hundreds of them if you apply the solar panels directly to the roof. Second of all, the maintenance of the roof. If you lift it up and have some gaps between the solar panels, we'll be able to get in there and maintain them, the roof in areas that may leak in the future. Usually in a new building, there is some leaky roofs, in some areas, and in fact, we have had one or two here that we're able to address almost immediately. And then the third part is the maintenance of the solar panels as well, with that wider solar panel array. So it was designed in that way. And we cannot, when we bid a job like that as a government entity and building a large commercial structure, probably the largest in Dunedin in a long, long time, We can't look at this in a vacuum. We have to look at the entire building and the maintenance of the entire building throughout the lifespan of the building. And that's really what we were looking at as far as application of the solar panels. We sat down with Mr. Brand for a couple hours. He alluded to that in the email that he sent to all of you, and we appreciate his time. I appreciate staff's time as well. We spent way more time than that, though, on this issue, and that would be before and after that meeting as well. I'm confident with what we did with this building as far as the solar panels and the racking system. It did result in additional costs to our solar panel system, no doubt about that. But as I said, we looked at
But it was better for the roof.
well, we looked at the maintenance of the roof, the lifespan of the roof, and what we were able to generate using that solar. Now, Mr. Brand had pointed out that if we were to put solar on the standing seam roof, then which is the curve over this area right here, then we could realize additional solar. So originally, we were, I think, at 33%. The additional solar at a cost of $90,000 on the standing seam, the curve of the roof, brought us to 56%. That said, that $90,000 came out of contingency, so it didn't impact the guaranteed maximum price of the building. As I said, I think that the way that we procured this solar, it certainly is well within the procurement process within the city of Dunedin. It checked all of the boxes that we must check as a government in order to realize a design bid build project. And as I said, we really did review what Mr. Brand had told us. In regards to the generation of the solar, and added more as a result of that. And so I think that the CEQ's points are very well taken as far as having the energy manager and somebody to review, and we will do that moving forward. But as I said, in particular, as it pertains to this building, I think that solar is appropriate, and I'm pleased with where we are. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, we'll move to informational items. I didn't see any emails on commission discussion, so we'll hop over that. City Clerk's update. Rebecca?
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick update on the Dunedin Citizens Academy, as it should be on everybody's calendar for that August 15th for the first night, so that's very excited. We did have 62 applicants, and we did do a random draw, and we do have 22 of the 24 confirmed. We're still waiting for those last 2 people to confirm. They've been dropping by their checks and giving us their shirt sizes, and so very excited residents to participate. But the one thing that I just wanted to ask each of you, and I don't even need it on the dais, but if you stop by or drop me an email, just on if you want a shirt ordered in the pretty orange that they'll be doing.
I can already tell you I don't want a shirt in orange, thank you. Save your money.
We'll be happy to order
I'll take a shirt with an orange on it, but not an orange shirt.
And so if you want to stop by, we can be happy to order you one so that you'll match some of the citizens that wear those on the Citizens Academy nights. So thank you, Mayor. That's all I had.
Okey doke. City Manager update. Jennifer?
Actually, Mayor, I have 2 things. One of them is from George Kinney. We had mentioned in a previous meeting, I don't recall exactly when, we're talking about the golf cart master plan, that we would like to amend the code. It's a very modest amendment. We'd like to amend the code to allow for a $20 annual registration and $80 5-year registration. And I think that would be a very customer-oriented and efficient for our public. It's very modest
Do we want to do
amendment.
that? Do we want to do that now, or do we want to wait till after our master plan?
No, we wanted to move it forward. It's
Okay.
a really easy amendment, and it's helpful for customers. We'd like it to be effective in the new fiscal year. So we'll be moving that forward. And the other item is, for the commission, we lost one of our employees, as you may know. On June 29th, which is Thursday, June 29th, Brett Breeden passed away very suddenly. He started as a maintenance worker 1 in February of 2016. He was promoted to maintenance worker 2 in July of that same year, and then to parks maintenance worker 3 in October of 2018. He worked on our athletic fields. He worked on our mow crew, and lastly, on our downtown crew, which he was transferred to in late 2018. He was always a dependable employee. Got along well with everyone. Always helped everyone, was supportive of his division at all times. And he trained several new employees on equipment and for the CDL test as well. So he was really willing to give to his fellow employees to kind of increase their base of knowledge. He was always patient. He was easygoing. He was well-liked by staff and by residents as well. And it's always really hard to lose an employee, especially unexpectedly. He was young, so my thoughts are with the Parks and Recreation staff as they attend his visitation today at 4 o'clock and his graveside service today at 5 o'clock at 11005 North US Highway 301 in Thornotosassa. Thornotosassa, Florida. So our thoughts, certainly administration, I'm sure, as the City Commission, are with his friends and his family, and we're hoping most certainly that he rests in peace and that his friends and family understand that he was one of the best in our organization, and we're going to miss him very, very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions of the city manager? I had one quick request.
Sure.
On our workshop list, at the bottom, we don't know when or how or what. Can we add a couple of items, just that presentation dates to be determined? Can we add the Marina Master Plan, the stormwater thing that we just talked about, the energy audit, and the golf cart master plan? Just so we know they're coming someday. It gives us a list. You don't have to even put a time on it.
Right.
It just gives us something to refer to, that we know, okay, these things we have approved, we know they're coming, maybe 6-8 months down the road. It's just really helpful
Sure,
to
absolutely.
understand that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. City attorney update? Anything, Jennifer? No? Okay, commission comments. Vice Mayor. Got anything from your liaison positions? Okay. Commissioner Gao?
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 A schools in our community.
Yay.
Both Dunedin High School and Dunedin Middle School received the grade of A, which is wonderful. I've always thought of any 6th grader starting the middle school. It's not a 3-year program and a 4-year program at the high school, but it's considered a 7-year program in our Dunedin schools. So very proud of certainly the students, the teachers, the staff, administration, the community. It's a community effort when the schools earn that type of recognition. So just wanted everybody to know. Go Falcons.
When are we doing the top apple? Did we do them
It's already
already?
done.
Did it?
We did it.
Where was I? Was I here?
Yeah, you were here.
How do I not
We
remember
just did it
that?
at the podium, yeah.
I just don't remember it.
I think it was one of our last meetings in Old City Hall. Right. Yeah.
Oh, Mo and I weren't here.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I don't remember it. See?
Yeah.
I'm not
Oh, you
losing
weren't
my
here.
mind.
My bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we were at the, right. Mr. Bowtie handled it. Okay. All right, very good. On my end, I would just also like to say, and this is sort of maybe on behalf of Commissioner Franny, several of us went on the annual Chamber Toronto trip. It was very productive. We went up on Thursday. We had a group dinner. Friday, we took a 2-hour tour of the stadium. They have invested some $200 million in the facility. And it was pretty interesting to see all the outdoor entertainment spaces that they've added. I don't know, it's like 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember, but, and they're getting ready to invest another 100 to 200 million on phase 2, which I don't even know what that's going to be. I think they're still working on it. So they're taking the same things that they've done here in Dunedin, and they're doing a lot of those things up there. In Toronto, it was just great to see the continued investment that the organization has made. Obviously, we got an opportunity to meet with most of the leadership of the Jays, which was nice. I know Commissioner Franny had a very extensive meeting with that leadership as well. We attended a game on Friday night, and we attended a game on Saturday afternoon. Unfortunately, the Jays lost both games, but the Saturday afternoon game was a real nail biter. I mean, it was a real nail biter. But the interesting thing is we had a lot of new community members that went. And that's kind of the big deal with this trip, is the chamber puts it on, everybody pays their own way. All the businesses that are going or individuals that go, most of them pay their own way. And they're doing it because they understand what a great partner, one of our largest partners in the community, that they are. And it's kind of a community way of showing, what we feel about them. Clearwater does something similar with Philly. I think there was, 25, 28 people that went. So that's pretty, and it wasn't just the same group. So that's pretty impressive. So I just wanted to mention that.
And Blue Jay won the home run derby yesterday.
Yes. Okay, I heard the yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool. Yeah. So, so that was good. And I skipped right over you, Rob. See what it?
Well,
so sorry. I just started talking. I realized go ahead. Your shot.
no, so I was just
Skipped
gonna-
right over you.
That's all right. I was just going to add that, it was really great being able to go up to Toronto and meet the Blue Jays organization. Because, again, what it does is it solidifies exactly what the relationship of the Blue Jays is to the city of Dunedin. And I greatly appreciated the opportunity to be able to do that. So that was my ad. Thank you.
Did you have any other updates from any of your liaison positions?
No further updates on
Okay.
those.
Tomorrow, Forward Pinellas is meeting, and we're going to be talking about that tarpon seat all over again. Now, they want their own seat. Staff is not recommending that. It's going to be a long meeting tomorrow because we had to cancel our May meeting and we had to cancel our August meeting, or June and August. So this is the only meeting we're having.
What time is that meeting?
It starts at 1, and they've already asked us to stay over. We actually even got a letter from Mark Licoris from Tarpon, city manager. So they're pushing really hard. I don't know what's going to happen. All I can say is, get your hands off our seat. As long as we have our seat, I'm going to go with the majority. But I just don't want to, it could be brought up again tomorrow to try to split the seats.
It's possible, but is it probable?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, I fought this issue for 3 meetings now. And nobody has, really come out and, other than the first meeting where that's what staff was recommending.
Right.
Once I won everybody on the first meeting, we, with our letter and all of that. But, you just never know. It's not probable. I don't think you need to. If I thought you needed to be there, I'd tell you. You are more than welcome to come, but I don't think you need to be there. I always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So there's that. In a couple weeks, I have my TDC board meeting. Y'all have heard that Steve Haynes is no longer with them. Mm-hmm. Brian Loack is the interim director of Visit St. Pete Clearwater. Very happy with him. They'll be looking for somebody. We just don't know when. They just need to get the organization stabilized. Part of the problem is there are a lot of open director positions. So it's kind of a rudderless horse right at the moment, but Brian's on top of it. I will also say that Bob and I are going to meet with staff of Visit St. Pete Clearwater to work on some delegated items from Jennifer, hopefully a marketing piece for Coca-Cola. Dunedin, or Pinellas County Economic Development is working on their own marketing piece in general with a new, what do you call it, tagline, come to play, stay to work. And so we're going to feed off of that and use their same thing, but just work on a piece directly for Dunedin. And this is all at her suggestion. Jennifer was there, so that'll be in about 2 weeks. I'll keep you posted, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Trying to think of what else. Oh, History Museum. They're still interviewing for new executive director. Jennifer, do we want to? We need to do something for Vinnie's at the end of the month, I think, I don't know if that's a proclamation, a thank you. I don't know. I do believe that the History Museum themselves are going to throw a party. That's my understanding. But we should do something here. I'm just putting it out there. So it'll be added to our agendas that we just got approved. So I don't know what it is yet, but just something recognizing him, whatever the appropriate thing is. And I think that's all I have. Okay. Early. Yay. Anybody else have anything good for the order?
Nothing further.
All right, we're adjourned.